Yeah, that's when I got it last year. That's when I got you guys' stuff.
Natasha Bertrand explains in her article titled, "Here's Why People Don't Believe in Climate Change," that more than one quarter of Americans are climate change skeptics. Many people claim that climate change doesn't affect them, but climate change affects everybody. In my recent years, I have wrote many essays about climate change that have included some research, so I have learned a lot about this topic. Many people believe that climate change is a hoax, but scientific research has proven the causes and effects of climate change to be very true. I'm going to discuss how human life has affected the environment and how this will impact our world in the future. First, let's start with the cause of the issue. Nearly all scientists believe in climate change. In NASA's article, they state the consensus that humans are causing recent global warming is shared by 90 to 100% of publishing climate scientists. This aligns with the 97% consensus on climate change, which states that 97% of scientists involved with the environment believe that humans have caused climate change. Humans have been hurting the environment in many ways. For example, human factories and vehicles have been releasing unfathomable amounts of CO2 into our atmosphere. Along with this, humans have been destroying Earth's forests for many centuries now. Earth consists of many beautiful jungles and forests that help protect our environment, but humans have been destroying them, contributing to climate change. Greenpeace is a non-governmental environmental organization founded in 1971. An article on their website explains, cutting and destroying forests turn these valuable carbon sinks into sources of greenhouse gases, further fueling climate change. This happens because as plants grow, they absorb carbon dioxide. So when you cut these trees down, they release their CO2 into the atmosphere. The reason forests are considered CO2 sinks is because they absorb CO2 rather than allow it to be released into the atmosphere. This is very similar to how an everyday sink works because instead of allowing water to pile up in the sink, it gets sucked up by the drain. When we release greenhouse gases such as CO2 into the atmosphere, we are increasing the natural greenhouse effect, thus causing more heat to be trapped, resulting in a temperature rise. So how the greenhouse effect works is that Earth has natural gases in the air that help prevent too much heat from being entered into Earth's atmosphere. So when we're adding extra CO2 into the air, this just increases the effects, allowing more heat to be absorbed into Earth, causing the temperatures to rise. Another problem that humans have is that they burn too many fossil fuels. There are 3 types of fossil fuels: coal, oil, and natural gases, all 3 of which can be used for energy production. In fact, fossil fuels are the most efficient way to create energy, therefore they are the most common in our world. But they are also very harmful to the environment because, as I said, when the CO2 enters the atmosphere, it increases the effect of the greenhouse effect. Burning fossil fuels releases many other chemicals other than CO2 into our air, which will also cause smog and pollution. Akpan explains in his article the contribution of energy consumption to climate change, a feasible policy direction, that the rapid rise in fossil fuel combustion has produced a corresponding rapid growth in CO2 emissions and accounts for over 80% of global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions in 2008. So based off of that, we know that 80% of our greenhouse gases come from human activity. These interactions with the environment bring many complications to human life, such as rising sea levels. Because of increasing global temperatures, glaciers and polar ice caps are melting, causing the sea levels to rise. An increase in sea levels will cause problems for nearly everybody, especially those living in coastal cities. Timothy Lane states in his article, Climate Change and Human Health, that many scientists believe that such changes are inevitable if glaciers and permafrost and sea ice continue to melt at a rapid pace. He's warning us that if we don't do something about global warming now, these problems will continue. Rising sea levels will eventually displace populations. Those living on islands and others that live close to large bodies of water, such as the Great Lakes in the Midwest or low-lying coastal cities, will have to move into new areas. There is always a possibility that this could cause overpopulation into certain areas because as the sea levels rise, these people are going to get flooded out of their homes and they're going to have to move into new areas. And there will likely be popular areas that people like to move to, thus causing the overpopulation. A major cause for repopulation by rising sea levels will be erosion and contaminated drinking water. Everybody relies on freshwater sources, commonly located underground. So as the sea level rises, the salt water will seep into our ground and into our freshwater sources, causing our freshwater to be undrinkable. Of course, there is ways to remove the salt from the freshwater, but that's a very complicated and costly process. Along with rising sea levels affecting humans, it will have a direct impact on plant and animal life. We've all done those labs in elementary school about plants and their environment. Those tests show that plants are very sensitive to their surroundings. So we learned that plants struggle a lot with water. If they get too much, they will likely die, and if they don't get enough, they will die. But if they're getting salt water, they'll struggle to pull the H2O out of the salty soil. So they will likely grow slowly or even die. Rising sea levels will also have an influence on coastal animals such as turtles and birds. Their nests will be swamped away by water, and if this happens, animals will likely go endangered and eventually extinct. Global warming will also cause more diseases to be spread and will cause an economic crisis for America. The World Health Organization has found that heat waves in the last decade alone have caused more than 150,000 deaths. This is from increased temperature alone. But higher temperatures will also allow bacteria and mosquitoes to inhabit areas that they couldn't before. This will allow them to spread diseases because they thrive on these warm temperatures, so they will be able to live in environments that they weren't able to before. So spreading these diseases will increase the death count and cause economic concerns for everybody. Most bacteria thrive on warm, humid temperatures, so this will allow them to spread to new areas, bringing their diseases with them and affecting hundreds of thousands of humans. Mosquitoes will also benefit greatly from these increased temperatures. Everybody hates dealing with mosquitoes in the summertime, but if the temperatures increase, we'll have to deal with them for a much longer time. Mosquitoes are constantly pestering and infecting humans, so if the temperatures rise, there will be much more crisis revolving that situation. You may wonder how this will affect our economy. The spread of diseases will cause a demand and more treatment to humans, and hundreds of thousands of people will be paying bills trying to get their illnesses diagnosed, and in turn, hospitals will be spending money to try to treat these patients. In conclusion, climate change has been a direct result of human error and has resulted in endless consequences for the human race. Many people think climate change is a hoax, but if we continue to ignore it, then our world will continue to suffer. In conclusion, I hope to have caused you to change your thoughts on climate change. I encourage you to do little things every day that can help improve our environment. Something as little as riding your bike to work every few days or even recycling will greatly help the earth. Thank you.